Welcome back to the program. Dan Lennington is standing by from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Congrats on a very long battle to finally get the Madison Metropolitan School District to agree to, number one, rescind a racist program for kids, and number two, work to comply better with open records requests. It's good to have you, Dan.
Good to be on. Thanks for having me.
So I think it is interesting that, as you can announce, the Madison School District has agreed to rescind a racist policy. The city of Madison is beginning a new racist policy. But let's talk about the school district first. So what was going on in the school district? And by the way, people, when you hear this, you're going to say, geez, that sounds familiar. How are they executing a racist policy?
Yeah, so in 2021, actually, I was contacted by a teacher in the Madison Metropolitan School District who had, with her iPhone, taken a picture of a slide that she had seen on Zoom. And the slide was a staff training development meeting in which a principal showed a slide, and the slide said, quote, "Prioritize your African-American students meeting with you first and more often." And the teacher emailed it to me and said, yeah, this doesn't seem right. I'm not supposed to prioritize anybody based on race, and I'm being instructed to do this, and this is Lakeview Elementary School in Madison. And so I said, well, okay, I'll get to the bottom of this. So I sent a public records request in January of 2022. I said, can you send me a copy of the policy? And heard crickets, asked for updates every few months. I think I asked for updates 6 times. And then a year after I submitted the public records request, we sued, and we said you have to turn over these records. The law says that records are supposed to be turned over as soon as possible, as soon as practicable, and without delay. And we thought that getting a court ruling saying that a year is definitely way too much delay. And in effect, we have proven that a year's delay will not only lead to a successful lawsuit, but also punitive damages, because the district, without too much pushing and prodding, has agreed to pay us $18,000. And so we're happy with this resolution. They've also agreed to make several other adjustments to their policy. They've hired an attorney. They've hired a new staff person. They've agreed to use a new software program. They've agreed to post all of their pending and closed records requests online, so the public can go on there and see how they're doing and get some transparency on what's going on. But, we do this because we hear a lot from parents who send public records requests and try to get information from school districts, and they're just really not able to do it because school districts will stonewall them, or they're just delay forever. So
yeah, they refuse to comply.
We'd make an example out of Madison, and they have agreed to a number of steps they're going to take, and they turned over the policy.
First off, they didn't admit. They said, "Oh, it was just a misunderstanding." That's one of the things they claim, which is nonsense. You can actually go see this slide. It was clearly not a misunderstanding. It was clearly a policy, and it was racist. Help black kids, help English learners, don't help white kids if you're a teacher. That's what it was saying. I guess if there's no black kids or Hispanic kids who need help, then you can help the white kids, but otherwise, don't do that. That's pretty much what this policy said. But they need to hire someone. This is easy. Can we see the policy? Someone just goes to the PowerPoint presentation during the Zoom meeting, pulls the slide. Here's the policy, Mr. Lennington, to comply with an open records request. It doesn't take an extra staff person, new software, or anything like that. You've got to wonder if Madison was saying, oh, at least we get to hire a new employee. At least we get to claim we need to hire more people. But that's, again, this is what school districts do. You're still waiting to see what the policy was from Eau Claire. The parents who want to know why there was nothing written down that they can see on what was said to their children by a man who had decided he was going to announce he would be presenting as a woman. I mean, those parents are still waiting for that. Might be a year. So it's not just Madison, Dan.
No, it's all over the place. And this particular policy, they say this is just one misunderstanding. This is one elementary school. Well, we got records in the lawsuit to reveal that this is not just one elementary school. It's the entire district has a policy. It's called the Strategic Plan for Literacy. They have something at the very top of the policy which they call the, quote, master narrative. And the master narrative is that they must decentralize whiteness to emphasize the stories and the backgrounds of African American children. They have a policy for all their teachers in this strategic plan that says that they must spend 80% of their time to instructionally target students of color. And in parentheses, they define students of color as African American and Latinx students. You may be missing in there that there are other people who are students of color, including Asians and Native Americans, but they have excluded those two racial groups because they do not prefer those two. So they spend 80% of their time explicitly attending, I'm reading this, explicitly attending to the academic achievement of students of color, African American and Latinx students. There's also a really interesting part of this policy that Madison says they have to eliminate blockers or resistors. A blocker or resistor is a teacher or an employee of the district who doesn't believe in racial equity, who doesn't believe in reverse discrimination.
Wow.
And so if you're an employee, there can't be many employees left in Madison School District who would be a blocker or resistor, because they've probably been fired by now. But if you belong to that school district as some sort of a member of their employment staff, don't stick your head up and say that you believe in equality or something like that. That might get you fired. They also they love affinity groups in Madison. They have this is the policy on affinity groups where they want to segregate with the white people. And they say that they create groups of white teachers who have to talk together about racism. It says, quote, which puts the onus on white people to learn from each other rather than relying on people of color to teach them.
So it's a white teacher struggle session, is what you're saying.
It is, and they the people teachers of color don't want to be bothered with talking to white people in those groups.
Wow, because that would be racist to have teachers of color talking to white teachers who are not of color. Apparently, this is all. I mean, it sounds like a Maoist. The whole district sounds like it's operating under a Maoist struggle session policy. Like everything's a struggle session.
Yeah, there's actually a little checklist that they developed called the Professional Development Rubric. I'm sorry to laugh, but this is not funny, but it does seem a little funny. But they have this rubric, which does sound like a Maoist struggle session. There's boxes you need to check. It says that, did you explicitly apply content goals to targeted student populations? And then they list the targeted populations, including African Americans. And you have to check yes or no whether the professional in the building did the sort of thing. Another one of these school districts, they have three things that they want to. They have a strategic plan for this Lakeview Elementary School. There's three things they want to do in this. They want to focus on rigor, they want to focus on relationships, and they want to focus on race. Those are the only three things that they want to focus on in this school district. And, what about student safety? What about character? What about, achievement?
Well, they're not rigorous. I don't know what the rigor is. It's just there because it sounds nice. It's alliterative. So they said they put another R word in there. But yeah, so is the whole thing gone, Dan? Is the whole shebang gone? The entire, structure and scaffolding of this policy, or is it just this one little policy?
I really don't think it's gone, because they said publicly, they said something to the effect that, this was a misunderstanding. We don't really have a policy that prioritizes African American students. Now, I think
that's a lie. They say it out loud in news, teachers being quoted in articles. The school board, for heaven's sake, says it out loud.
Yeah, one is that they're being cute. They're saying we don't have this policy, which literally says, quote, prioritize your African American students. We don't have that policy anymore. But I think some of their teachers are going to wake up and read the newspaper and be kind of surprised that they don't prioritize their African American students, because that's what they say all day long. And all these trainings, all these PowerPoints and strategic plans, they say this over and over and over. And this poor principal at Lakeview Elementary just put into words what she had been taught for so many years and said, well, this obviously just means prioritize your African American students. And then she gets dinged and has to be tell everybody it's just a misunderstanding, when all the other policies are saying just the opposite, that this is about
it's not
race-based
so
education.
Is Will going to stay on this case? Because I think you're right. I don't think this is a misunderstanding. I think this is a system-wide policy, and it's a whole lot deeper than just what you found out. What do you need, though? Do you need additional teachers contacting you?
Yeah, and I would say this and open this up to any person in Wisconsin, in any school district, where you have a student or a teacher or some other employee of the district who is being treated or being told to treat others differently based on race. There is no provision in the law for race discrimination. Race discrimination is never permitted. You can't give anybody a special membership in a club or do some racial balancing here. You can't give a little scholarship there. You can't put somebody on the speech and debate team.
Unfortunately, I'm out of time. Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. That is will-law.org. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.